Well, we'll try to make this session a little bit lively since we're starting to lose some people in the afternoon. I'll call our speakers for this afternoon by order. Rambert, Namy, VP, Business Consulting Director in Sofrecom. And your names are actually on the seats. Mustapha Kaddoura, Senior Director, Smart City Etisalat. Orvar Hurtig, VP Ericsson, Head of Business Line Industry and Society. Valles, VP of Enterprise and Commerce, New Business and Innovation at DO. Dr. Mohammed, Nadder Hamdy, Director, Wireless Network Engineering, Commscope. Charbel Sarkis, Sector Lead, Technology and Retail in the MENA region with Google. Loozen, Managing Director, Global Communications Industry, Accenture. So as we get everyone a microphone, we're missing one person? Over. Okay. Well, this session is pretty much about commerce. And we're going to be taking a view on electronic commerce in the context of smart cities. But one important point that we hope will arise from this discussion is the differentiation between what's electronic and mobile commerce on one side and what's labeled as smart commerce on the other side. And there's some differentiation there which will become more and more apparent in this discussion, hopefully. So to kick the discussion off, I'd like to start with one very, very simple question. I'd like to ask each panelist to very quickly point out what application or service that fit within the E or M commerce space that has attracted their attention the most in the past 18 months. That they can see that this is a good case, a good lesson to be learned from it, and something that exemplifies the future of commerce in the context of smart cities, smart countries, smart world. It doesn't even have to be that smart, but at least in the context of the smart world that we're starting to see emerge today. So let's start with Rambert.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone, especially for the ones that are staying late today. Just maybe before answering directly your question about coming back to the context of smart city, if you link the smart city with the smart shopping experience, Smart City is definitely a program that is dedicated to improve life of customers.
Yes.
I would believe smart shopping is clearly part of it and should play a key role into that. When you look at the customer journey, when you go for either online or retail store shopping, from the time you select your product, you try to get the best promotion and the best price, the time you go into the store and you hope to be recognized if you're a loyal customer, the payment, whether you have credit, debit card, or even if you look at other regions of the world, such as the developing countries where you don't even have anything else than cash for payment. We believe that smart shopping really is a program that could help improving the daily customer and is clearly part at the heart of the Smart City program. Mm-hmm. Answering your question, what is my favorite app or favorite application regarding a smart shopping experience? The one that I'm using the most would be the answer, which is Uber. The Uber app for me is clearly, in terms of building a new customer experience that facilitates the life, Uber, I use it in any city in the world. One thing which I like, of course, is this design of seeing the taxi coming where you are. But the most important and the most disruptive for me is the fact that you leave the taxi and you don't even have to pay.
Indeed.
It's completely seamless, and this is for me exactly the sort of example of what a new smart shopping experience can bring in terms of improving daily life.
Mustapha, how about you?
In my case, I have to be direct to the point and answer your question. I have to be a bit biased because we just launched the Smart Mall with RTA, and this is an amazing experience where you literally can do full shopping by swiping your finger on a wall, and you can go home and basically receive your goods and services. So there is no need anymore for physical shopping, for grocery shopping, and this is really amazing. So we just launched this with RTA, and we're going to keep rolling out the service across the city.
So the Smart Mall is your baby.
Our baby.
How about you, Jose?
Well, actually, I do think that the way commerce has been developing in the last years is pretty interesting, and there are some areas of commerce that have been already deeply affected or improved because of smart solutions and smart cities. If there is one that has caught my attention is actually the dash buttons of Amazon. And the reason why is because it's actually taking us to a situation where not only the payment, like in the case of Uber, disappears from the equation, it's actually even the ordering process totally disappears. So the next step is, by the way, it's kind of a little bit clunky to think about having one button beside where you have your Nespresso to say that you've run out of capsules. But the next thing is going to be in the Amazon developer program, they are now exposing APIs that are allowing manufacturers of any kind of service to link their solutions with, or their services, products with Amazon. So for example, something as simple as a jar of water with a filter. It measures the number of liters that passes through the filter. At the moment that the filter is going to be expired, it directly sends a message to Amazon, and it triggers a purchase. There is no interaction of the customer. There is no interaction in terms of purchase of the payment, and you get your services. This taken to the next level is in 5 years, 15% of the things that we use at home are going to be done.
So these purchases happening automatically, as you know, absolutely. And Dr. Mohammed?
Yeah, for me, I mean, one of the new advances that has attracted my attention is actually the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So the Bitcoin is something in the commerce that's raising up, and I think it has a good potential because it basically gets rid of this 3% premium that the Visa and other credit card holders have premium on their sales. So it's invented in 2008 by someone called Satoshi Nakamoto. It's a very strange name. And
he's being pursued by the Interpol right now, I guess.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you can imagine how much money is involved in that, and how it can really draw the carpet underneath the current players. The big, and the thing is that this money doesn't have a central database or anything. It's widespread among the users who have the credit. And it started by having a software by this gentleman, and it was open source software, which currently has evolved. And it's also started that you give, if you have hardware like computers and so on, you allow others to, on the cloud, use your computation power, and then you get credits as Bitcoins, which you can then later exchange it for goods or anything like that. So it's really interesting model. And I have recently read also that 2 of the programmers in that company, Bitcoin, have recently split out, and they made their own parallel Bitcoin, which it's said that it's going to overcome some of the shortfalls of the existing Bitcoin. But there is some industry scared that we might have 2 standards. But anyway, it's something that's really a disruptive technology, and I think it's going to have a big role in e-commerce in the future.
Very good. So Bitcoin, Charbel?
Hello. Yeah. For me, the question is not specifically around a certain apps or service. It's more about how e-commerce and m-commerce is going to look like in a smart city context. And the way we're thinking about it is around 2 areas. The first one is around changes in business models that are driven by changes in lifestyle. As you know, we have limited amount of time every day. And with internet and smartphone, we have to optimize our day. And this is the convenience of e-commerce that help drive e-commerce to where it stands today. And this is at the core of what a smart city want to do, is to optimize people time. Now, there are signs that the envelope is being pushed on the convenience angle. Think about the future of e-commerce as someone who's connected to e-commerce grid, similar to how we're connected to an electricity grid, right? And there are evidence in this direction. If you think about Amazon Prime, it's really an access fee. You're paying an access fee to get access and to get free delivery. And there are new business models that are based on subscription rather than transaction that will facilitate the flow of commerce, especially for items that are recurring and that you can predict beforehand. And we expect that this part of taking convenience to the next level is going to be a main feature of smart cities. The other angle is really about the changes and disruption in the value chain that are being made possible by technology. And if you look at the value chain of retail beyond e-commerce, every single part of the value chain is going to be disrupted by technology that is available today.
But what's your favorite, don't dodge the question. What's your favorite application?
I think one of the favorite one is around how both world, e-commerce and the physical world, are gonna merge. And applications like beacons, right, have the power to change completely the way retailers are interacting with their customers and kind of harmonizing the data that it exists online and offline on CRM of retailers and allow more personalized service within stores.
Okay. And last but not least, Tom, what's your favorite?
Yeah. So on applications I like Uber a lot. I think what I found most interesting is maybe a concept. It's the concept of Amazon opening a shop, right, in Seattle University. And what I like about it is that what they do is they take the advantage of the e-commerce, which is they have ratings which are credible, they have a huge amount of comments and views, and they put them in that shop so people who actually come there can still benefit from that information. And at the same time, what I like about it is that they're not necessarily very religious about the fact that convenience is always e-commerce. If you're in a place where there's a huge amount of people actually passing by, it's much easier to go there, buy it and take it with you than that you go home and there have to order it. So I think that's an interesting concept which I found noteworthy.
That's an important point which will come back a bit later in the kind of role of physical versus virtual, absolutely. Let me, Jen, ask you another kind of angle looking at it from the mobility side to e-commerce and m-commerce. 42% in terms of growth between 2013 and 2016 for mobile commerce. So mobile commerce is growing at 42% per year during that period, compared to only 13% when we talk about total e-commerce, which includes mobile commerce in it. So in that context, and this is a question I would like to put to Mustapha to start with, do you see E or M commerce as the main driver for smart shopping within smart cities in the future? So is it E or M? Sorry, not and. So do you see more mobile applications coming up for encouraging commerce in smart cities and getting the smart commerce concept out there?
Right. I believe both, but of course, as long as we move mobile, the tendency for mobile applications will be definitely more. However, the large screens impact on the way we shop and do business today also will change our lives. So I believe also that there will be applications for omni-channel or for what we call phygital, which is the physical and the digital world all together. So without having to see and to touch and to feel the good or the service, you will not be able just to buy it online using a small screen. So I think there's a room for increased penetration on the digital side, especially with retailers, to display the service or the good and to try to able to try it at least. And this will have tremendous impact on the supply chain, simply because you will not need to have all the stocks and the inventory in single location. You can always try a suit and change the color without really changing, the actual suit. So you can order this later on. So I think both. Of course, the next generation will have a clear tendency for mobility. Of course, our generation is both at this early stage, but the mobile penetration will increase. But again, it will not eliminate the e-commerce world, because they will need more, I would say, definitely different channels from the only mobile channel.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and Jose, what do you think about that?
Well, I think actually, when people define e-commerce and mobile commerce, I see e-commerce like an evolution of e-commerce, a natural evolution. And it's a natural evolution that it depends on the adoption of mobile technologies, okay? So the reality is not one or the other, it's two of them together. And of course, for me, e-commerce is going to grow much faster than the rest of the pie. I mean, if the pie grows 50, e-commerce is going to be 75. And the reason why is because people use that technology more often. Actually, how do you define mobile anymore? You know, it's kind of, I was here at the conference, I need to do something, connect my mobile, had to do it in the computer because it had a bigger screen, but I do it in my computer. How do you define that onwards? You know, so, I mean, ubiquity is there already, and young people don't understand about any kind of difference. My kids don't know whether they are connected to a fixed line or a mobile line whatsoever. Mm-hmm. They just want to be connected, and they don't know how.
So you know, do you see mobility effectively as a key element in the success of the smart concept when it comes to shopping? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, mobility clearly
We have a problem with the microphone.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, definitely you cannot dissociate smart shopping from the use of smartphone. Because smartphone provides a lot of opportunity for the end user because you have a stronger authentication. If you look at what the telcos are currently doing together with the GSMA Association on a program called Mobile Connect, you have a single check-in, single checkout. So the customer experience, back to smart shopping, which means improving the customer experience of shopping, definitely the smartphone provides more facility to the customer to use to improve their customer experience. So that's one. When it comes to mobility, the limitation, number one, of the size of the screen of the smartphone is less than it was before. So you can do almost as much as you can on a smartphone than you can do on your iPad or laptop. So the smartphone is clearly becoming the main device for shopping, and you can see it in the figures. I think it's like 60% of e-commerce which is done through a smartphone today. And last point, which is since we at Sofrecom, we are very much helping the telecom company, what we see as well is that the telecom companies are really willing to play a much more active role in the value chain of e-commerce, and obviously they'll do it on the smartphone. So what the telcos are doing, they are more and more active into the payment space. We see what's happening in developing countries with all the mobile money service. There is a layer that the telcos are working on today is to improve the digital customer experience on the screen, and actually telcos are less and obviously competing once against each other, but they also compete with other screens, with iPad, with laptops, and what you can see in the telco world today is they're not only looking at the ARPU, the revenue per user, but they're also looking at the time spent on the screen. And there is a work which is initiated by a number of telcos these days to improve the customer experience, the digital experience on their screen, in order to provide added value and not to be only a receiver of different apps from content providers.
On that point, how many of you in the audience have actually purchased anything using a mobile app? Purchased through a mobile application? Just show of hand. That's quite consistent with the global trend, because 64% of smartphone shoppers have purchased via an application, and 52% have purchased via browsers, both on the mobile phone itself. So are we seeing here the end of the days of electronic retail and moving more towards smart retail instead of talking about electronic and mobile? It's basically smart purchasing, given the sheer amount of people who are basically starting to use applications? And are the browser days over? What do you think, Charbel?
Let's go back to what are the advantages of M-Site versus app and see where the world is evolving. The main advantage of M-Site is really around the ease of discovery, because it's easier connected to search engines and it's cheaper to develop. While on the app side, it's faster, it's more integrated with your device, with the functionality of the device, and it's the notification part is very powerful, especially for businesses like retail that want to engage with you on a continuous basis. Now, what's happening? In general, yes, there is an increase in popularity of apps, but if you look ahead, the lines are gonna get more blurry. Apps, on the apps front, there is more and more rollout of notification within browsers. Chrome, for example, with Chrome, we rolled out already notification within browsers. So to close the gap on that front with apps. And on the other hand, with deep linking, discovery of apps is becoming easier and much easily linked to search engine and discovery. So I think going forward, while now we're seeing a surge in popularity of apps, the lines between the two are going to become blurry in the next few years.
Tom, what do you think? Applications taking over from browsers on mobiles, or do you still see room for browsers to?
No, I would very much agree with what Charbel said, and I think the technology is continuously changing. HTML5 is allowing you to do things which you couldn't do before. I think the experiences will probably be pretty similar. I think app providers are trying to sort of keep them in their ecosystem. I think the Buy Now button within the Twitter was an interesting one. I know within WeChat there's many different functions that you can do, but I think, as Charbel said, with the connection to search engines and the availability of browsers and the technology advancements also in that space, I think it will probably be looking more alike than instead of one stream winning from the other.
59% of smartphone shoppers are between the ages of 18 and 34. So as this population ages, do you see this as a key driver for the proliferation of smart shopping? Is that the main driver, or do you see other reasons for smart shopping emerging also with other age groups? Mohammed, what do you think?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, if you look at the new generation, I mean, we all have kids and we see how they act. So, for example, the way they deal with media is different than what we used to do looking at TVs and so on. They have their own YouTubes and channels that they are monitoring. Same thing will be applied to how they do shopping. So, I very much foresee that the future of shopping is all online. Majority, I would say, online. And with the trends we see, for example, I have here a US study that says 92% of the millennials already have smartphones, and people are spending more than 65% of their digital time on mobile devices. A US average user is spending 3 hours and 40 minutes on a mobile device every day. So imagine that's today. What will happen after 10 years? So definitely it's going to be the trend, and I agree with your statements.
So there's an almost consensus on the panel that it's kind of youth, mobile, and applications. That kind of combination is bringing together a completely new system or ecosystem for commerce and shopping. Let me put that question then from a value chain perspective. Let's move away from the technology itself, looking at the retail value chain in general. How do you see that value chain transform, within the smart commerce concept? Effectively, are we going to see more large format shopping mall type places thriving as a result of smart commerce, given the applications that most of you have mentioned, given the interactivity, the measurement capabilities, the insights that shopping malls can draw from mobile or smartphone users and holders, and tailoring products for them within a shopping mall concept? Or do you see this as a great opportunity for the small corner shop to be revived and be able to market products and services or even the warehouse owner rather than the shop owner to market directly through smart commerce. How do you see this value chain changing? In which direction? Who do you think is going to win? So on the panel, just give it 2 seconds of thought. Who is with the idea that large format will prevail as a result of smart shopping? Show of hand, just quick show of hand. Okay, so we've got a defender, and I presume, do the others feel that the small corner shop would prevail as a result of smart shopping?
Well, I have to say, it depends. It depends.
Let's put the depends in the middle. A show of hand for those who are with the warehouse or the small corner shop.
Can we answer for both? We believe both are.
So, okay. So nobody feels strongly about the small guy, but there's a good, strong feeling about the shopping mall concept prevailing. And could you explain, Tom, why do you feel that?
So I think, will they win over the period of 3, 4, 5 years? I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
I think for the coming 1, 2 years, yes, they will take an advantage. I think the emotional context, social emotional context to shopping, let's say the investments which are needed to make sure that through iBeacons or Wi-Fi pickup you very specifically personalize a certain experience. I think they have an advantage there. I think the advantage for the small shoppers is over a period of time also, the cost of those technologies will actually go down, and I think it will allow them to more specifically connect with their user group, so technology will work to their advantage. But I would expect that for the 1, 2 years to come, that the bigger ones have an advantage in terms of ability to invest and make it a more exciting experience.
And you mentioned personalization. Is that the key driver for the fact that you can personalize services within a kind of geographical location that will actually bring major advantages to major retailers?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is in terms of attractiveness for the user. I think it is in terms of cost of managing your stock and in terms of cost of managing your whole shop experience. So I think it is a very important one.
So let's go back to the old Amazon concept before the one that you mentioned, which is the warehouse model that thrived from e-commerce. And don't you think that model will continue growing and take over the small shop and the large format in that case by pushing commerce electronically, by using smart commerce in general? Do you see that, Jose, developing? And I would put the same question to you.
I see actually two different worlds actually, and they are going to behave differently. In terms of what happens in the physical world, I totally agree that the big guys are going to have a big advantage. If you see the way they're managing data right now, and they're able to attract customers, run loyalty programs, etc. I mean, the corner shop has very little to say. Okay, it's going to end up being a boutique or kind of a proximity shop, but that's it. But if you see at the internet and what is happening in online business, I mean, the behavior of customers keeps on being the same. You at the end of the day, you buy in the places that you know. Okay, so I'm a heavy user of Amazon, and I'm a heavy user now that I moved here to Middle East of Souq.com, right? And why? Because I get connected with the brand, and it's what I feel comfortable with. I go there, buy, end of the game. But then actually, this opens a very good opportunity to small shops because. These places are becoming malls, and merchants are able to go and inject their products into these portals. Once they get a relationship with the customer, they become an important brand. They can start driving traffic to their own assets, and you don't need a big staff to set up a shop. So I think both worlds are going to move differently, and democratization of access to customers is going to be massive in the internet, like it's happening right now. The other world is for the big guys, and that's it. Yeah.
Big guys, okay. Mustapha, what do you think?
I think the question should be innovate or die. I mean, are you going to innovate and move to digital, or are you going to stay, without any digital channels? So the question is basically when you are going to do, the shift or the move. And in my opinion, the small retailers will have the opportunity to move faster because they are more agile. And moving to digital is not expensive anymore like before. So buying, for example, a website or moving into big data or cloud is something they can immediately use today. So I think it's about the decision of the retailer whether they want to shift or to move or to stay as they are.
So let me push that point a little further before I ask the audience to give us their opinion about it. See which one. which side of the argument wins with the audience. Are we saying here that smart commerce will help the large format players, whilst e-commerce will help the smaller formats and the warehouse players? Is that something that could potentially be the case? Charbel, what do you think?
I think, yeah, it's not too far. I mean, I agree with Tom that the immediate future is with the big formats, because they are the only one who are really able to deploy technology that will bridge the online and the physical world.
And that's for the smart
But that's for the smart element. But imagine a world where e-commerce start to represent a significant share of total commerce. Globally, we are today at 7.3%, but in China, we're at 16% already. So the question becomes, at what point the economic model of large format will start to break, right?
Yeah.
There is a big fixed cost base, and if traffic and commerce start to decrease, then there is a rethinking around the role of the store. And that's why we're seeing, especially in the US, big investments in rolling out corner shops from the big players like Walmart, Best Buy, and Target. They are opening small shops, convenience shop in cities, and the role of these shops is really to complement e-commerce. Right? They are pickup stores.
Okay.
They have digital inventory where you can order and get delivered at home, and you can pay there. So I think there is a rethinking on the role of the store itself when e-commerce start to become more and more significant. There will be a proliferation of small stores, and there will be experience stores where you go and experience the brand. In the case, and which is very relevant to telecom operators who are technology players, and this is a trend that we're also seeing in Europe in terms of focus of telecom operator on experience stores with user connect with their brand.
Let me put the question to the audience as a wake-up question. Show of hand, who thinks, and I'm talking about smart commerce, not e-commerce, basically commerce that requires a lot of personalization and interactivity and measurements using smartphones, as well as purchasing behavior analysis and mobility analysis. Who do you think will win in this model? The large format retailers, big shopping malls? Those who think the big shopping malls would be the winners out of smart commerce, please raise your hands. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those who think the small players, the retailers, and also those who don't have retail presence would win that through smart commerce. Raise of hand. So we have more of a split audience. None of you managed to actually convince the majority. But moving on from that point, and I think it's both in many ways. China, Turkey, the UAE, they dominate the smartphone or the smart commerce space. What can we draw from these experiences, particularly from that geography? These are among the top countries where kind of smart commerce is prevalent right now. Rambert, what do you say about this? What's making them so successful in
I think
smart commerce?
there are big discrepancy around the world on smart food penetration. That makes a lot of difference. Of level of access to banking services. So it's quite clear that you will see major difference from one country to another. The one which are the most advanced, you speak about China, but I would say Japan and South Korea are maybe the most advanced into this. Have really been some sort of example of how to build some new completely disruptive and digital customer experience.
So you're differentiating between those countries who have kind of mass adoption with those who have a lot of innovation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, maybe. Yeah. And on the other hand, if you look at a region where we do a lot of work, which is more on the developing markets, where again Africa or Southeast Asia, where people have very little access to banking services. This is a major issue when it comes to smart shopping. If people cannot purchase, cannot buy online, if they have only cash as a method of payment, and as well as number of countries where you don't know where the customer live, who they are, and again, that was one of the earlier points we spoke about, is how the telco can play a role to unlock all these barriers and help the development of mobile commerce in some region where you don't have this infrastructure.
And Dr. Mohammed, what do you think about this? Can telco make a big difference there?
Yeah, I can speak specifically for the UAE because I lived here for 18 years. So, I mean, what I see is that it's an infrastructure. So if you build a proper infrastructure that can provide a good user experience over cellular networks and telecom infrastructures, then they will be able to tend to use more of these services. So, for example, if we see how the UAE is built, I mean, there is an extensive fiber infrastructure in the country that is able to carry such a tremendous amount of data. So we might see an LTE network, a 4G network wireless, but it's backhauled or connected to the central exchange over shared microwave links, which will eventually put the throughput down to earth. So it's infrastructure in the first place. Secondly, also of course, the GDP of the inhabitants and so on. For example, in UAE, the average time to replace a handset is around 2 years, which gives room to embrace the latest technology. From the UAE regulatory report, July 15, there is 200% of mobile penetration in the UAE, around 17 million devices or subscriptions, with an average revenue per user of 126 dirhams per month. So imagine how much of potential we're talking about. The Network Readiness Index of the World Economic Forum ranks UAE as 23rd worldwide from infrastructure point of view and readiness of the networks. Google has ranked UAE in 2013 as the #1 country in smartphone penetration, and that was at 73% penetration.
So these numbers you're giving are strengthening or kind of supporting the hypothesis that it's basically the penetration, the infrastructure readiness that have actually placed these countries at the forefront of smart commerce because of smart devices and capabilities
and the willingness
of the
of customers to spend.
And the customers' willingness to
embrace
spend.
that technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've talked about smart commerce quite a lot and mobile penetration, etc. We haven't, and we talked about retail and the retail value chain. What we haven't touched upon was the business-to-business relationship and commerce. And that might have a slightly different twist to it. In business to business, and I want to put the question to Accenture, Tom. Do you see, again, business to business commerce being prevalent in smart commerce or in electronic commerce, the traditional way? So is it the flip side of what we are seeing in retail, or is it following the same trend as retail? How do you see things progressing with B2B commerce transactions?
I would be tempted to think more about smart commerce. I think honestly in the B2B, I think other concepts of technology play a role than maybe the ones that we were just discussing. I think in the B2B, the whole idea around how do you do your logistics, how do you do your operations, how do you make sure that demand and supply are being coordinated. I think optimization through the use of robotization, big data, analytics, giving you insights, I think that those aspects play a very important role in that space. They play an important role also in the retail to consumer, but I think those are very important forces in the B2B. I haven't thought, I thought it less through in terms of e-commerce versus maybe the more physical commerce as we have it now, but I would be tempted to think more about the other concepts as being very important to make a difference in that space than anything else.
Right. And for small, medium enterprises, B2B, Charbel from Google, what's your view on that?
I tend to agree with Tom. I think most of the innovation in this space is going to be in the background and in organization of logistics, on warehousing, and how technology is going to play a role in lowering the cost and making it more efficient on that front.
And Mohammed from Commscope?
Well, I'm not really an economical expert, but I think that the business between. So I mean, we can see that we have two models here for when it comes to B2B. Especially, I would like to talk more about consumer to consumer. So we see that in the e-commerce we have models like the eBay and and Souk.com, that they work on the model of auctions. Like people start to list their items, and then it's like an auction-based model of e-commerce. So that thing that I think has a good potential as well in that process. Yeah.
Jose from Etisalat?
I mean,
Sorry.
I mean, in terms of the adoption of technology in B2B has always been, the automation of systems, supply chain, fleets, it's been there for a while, okay? So I do strongly believe that the adoption of technology is going to keep on being faster in B2B because it actually affects directly the bottom line of of companies. And yeah, definitely there's going to be a big space there.
And Mohammed? Mustapha from Etisalat.
I believe that there will be impact on B2B when the government impose more regulations when it comes to supply chain and to buy goods and services. We have seen it in Dubai, in the UAE, when the government of Dubai launched Tijari 8 years ago. And I think now every single transaction has to go through certain government portal.
Yeah.
That will drive the B2B commerce, not the typical standard commerce where somebody's going to seek certain product to buy. So I think the government has a big influence on the way that we'll see B2B happening.
Okay. Rambert from Sofrecom?
Yes, so I fully agree. Of course, the regulatory part is a key component of that. But of course, same as for the B2C, if the B2B shopping experience with mobile commerce is improving the process and that's a way to digitalize the internal process of, as you say, warehousing, procurement and all this for B2B, and especially for the small, the SMEs, definitely the m-commerce would be a key component for that. Yeah.
Before I move on to the final question, I would like to open the questions to the audience. So two things, if you can start thinking about the question. Secondly, if you can just attract my attention so we can get you a microphone. So while we discuss this final question, please start thinking about your questions as well, so we don't take too much time to start. So last question to each and every panelist here with a request to be brief with the answer. Where do you see the key challenges for smart commerce going forward in terms of infrastructure, technology in general and infrastructure, regulations, and usage from the people side? And let us start again with Tom and move all the way down very quickly.
Let me think about that one. I think regulation is going to be, clearly important. I think the biggest challenge, I think probably an exciting and challenging area will be that I think e-commerce is I think being optimized around people going to the internet either via their mobile or via the PC and getting the experience there. I think getting, let's say, those experiences which are happening there, whether it's through virtual reality, whether it's through recommendations, I think being able to effectively import those in a physical environment, I think is still a very important one. I think I don't know if it's the number one or the number two hobby of teenagers in the United States, but it's pretty high up, going to the mall and having a social event of shopping together. So I think that is an interesting concept that should be explored more, and which will allow also for that shopping to get to a better experience.
Yeah. Charbel?
I think most of the issues still relate to the basic form of m-commerce and e-commerce, which we haven't solved completely in the region yet. And in my mind, there are few areas that telco can participate in. The first one is around digitization of inventory, especially when it comes to small, medium businesses, and telcos have relationship with these businesses. And the question becomes, how can telco play a role in helping them digitize their inventory and start selling online, be it on M or e-commerce? The second area is around payment. We have a credit card issue in this region, right? Credit card penetration is relatively low, And the question to telcos is, can they play a role through direct carrier billing in enabling, in opening up more horizons for payment in the region? And the third part is around funding. Funding has increased in the region. Last year, there has been $200 million invested in e-commerce and online services. Telcos, most of the telcos have venture capital fund. I think what is needed is more appetite for larger tickets to help e-commerce businesses that require significant funding scale quicker across the region. And the fourth one is really around the consumer. This year we observed White Friday, the shopping celebration of commerce, and it was a huge success. It made a difference. I think we should look for more opportunities to celebrate the e-commerce and m-commerce culture in general in MENA. And I'm sure telcos will find a big role for them to play.
Very good. Mohammed?
I'll talk about the infrastructure challenges mainly because that's my background. So one of the biggest challenges will be the security aspects, and especially that we're going to see in smart cities everything connected, the Internet of Things and so on, that we can see also voices coming that we need to segregate between different networks, not to have Internet of Things, but to have intranet of things. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is scalability. I'm imagining the amount of users we're going to have with the amount of machines connected and so on together in the new smart cities environment. So scalability is one aspect that we need to leverage on in the infrastructure. And we can give an example of the IP version 4, for example, running out of addresses while replaced by IPv6, which is going to give the adequate number of users that can utilize such systems.
Okay.
Also mobility that has to be considered to give the freedom of usage anywhere for any user at any time. And that can be addressed with the new technologies. We're thinking about 5G to be able to address all this number of users and devices simultaneously.
Thank you. And Jose from Do.
That's good. From the 3 points that you've mentioned, actually I think infrastructure is going to be an answer to a question to be answered, but it's not going to represent a big challenge. In terms of the technologies that we have for access, I think we're in a very good place here in UAE. And then in terms of deployment of new sensors, etc., I think it's going to be a matter of form factors and business cases at the end of the day. User adoption, users adopt technologies is a matter of a fact that if something works, people get it. If it doesn't work, they just reject it to the first usage. So one of the big challenges that we're going to face is going to be regulation. It's going to be actually quite interesting. It's happening already. It was mentioned before the case of Uber. Uber is facing lots of problems in terms of regulation in different countries. It's happening in Spain, for example, where I'm from. It's happening in France, and it's happening here in UAE. And it's because the innovation is looking for ways to do business and to interact with customers that the regulators don't have an answer to. And then when they try to jump and regulate, is a problem. I think that is going to be a very interesting challenge. And the other challenge is going to be the how we access and manage customer data. Okay.
So on the regulation point, just to point out, it's basically, again, to make it worse, it's the regulation of multiple industries overlapping together in the e-space that makes it even more complex.
Exactly.
Correct.
Okay, so the view from Etisalat.
So I believe that there will be a couple of challenges that we need to think about solutions for. The first one has to deal with the infrastructure. We need to move now into more secure and reliable infrastructure. 5G, 4G, fiber, all of these are required to ensure that we have seamless experience with the clients. The second challenge is around the digital partners. Do we have digital partners who can implement digital solutions for those retailers and customers? And without having one-stop shop to deal with cloud, IoT, big data analytics, we will not be able to transform these industries. The third one is regarding smart city, and without smart regulations, we will not be able to become users of the smart city. So we need to change our regulations, our policies, our registration within the government. The last point is regarding open data. And without having an open data law in the country, innovation will not happen. So people will not have access to information. They will not be able to come up with new applications. We will not be able to see how can we really use these bulk amount of data. So we need to have open data laws to be implemented in the region, in the country, and I think Dubai has been doing it successfully so far.
Thank you, Mustapha. And last but not least, Rambert, what do you think?
Yeah, so we are. The mobile commerce is a quite complex ecosystem, and obviously the infrastructure is a key component. If we are convinced that the telcos should play a role, then the regulatory environment is key. Obviously, if you want, especially on the payment space today, it's very difficult for a telco to play any role when it comes to managing payment or providing payment solution. So there is a need for a strong push from the regulator on this. And on this specific payment aspect, there's also another component which is related to infrastructure is the interoperability, making sure that into this ecosystem, everybody, whatever payments they use, and they can transact on a seamless way with their phone.
Very good. Now we can move to the audience. I hope you've had enough time to prepare the questions. Any burning questions? Just raise your hands. I know it's late in the afternoon, but let's keep it going. Questions? Okay. While waiting for that question, I'll go through a quick summary of what we have heard today. We've discussed the large format and the kind of small format retail shopping and the impact on the retail value chain, and a bit of a conclusion kind of emerged from this discussion is that large format will prevail with smart commerce, while small format and kind of background supply chain would prevail with e-commerce. And obviously B2B sounded more like an e-commerce space than a smart commerce specifically. In terms of challenges, absolutely we did not hear anything about challenges with consumer adoption. It was more related, or technology for that matter, it was more related to inventory digitization. We heard data analytics and data mining, more appetite for large ticket funding. So funding was quite an important point. Security popped up a few times in the discussion as well. Regulations with overlaps across industries, smart regulations and open data law are quite important to enable smart commerce. And the relationship with digital partners, the legal framework around that relationship and the interfaces, the interoperability of various players together are quite vital for the success of smart commerce. Again, I'll give you another chance in the audience if you have any burning questions to ask.
Thank you. My question, in fact, to any who can answer. Regulation for the e-commerce or m-commerce, okay? Do you think it should be at a regional level or country by country? It should be in accordance with this banking standard, or which standard? Okay, including the security of online payment, who protects the consumer? Because with the increasing of the transaction on mobile or on online, we increase also the fraud, lot of security issues. Okay, so who's responsible within this standardization to tackle this?
Well, actually, right now there is an
right now what it should be done.
But right now there is an analysis by the UAE Central Bank about the payment framework. Okay, it's happening as we speak. The work that these guys have in front of them is quite complicated because they need to put together lots of agents in the industry, banks, the current over-the-top payment providers, the telcos, the merchants, everybody trying to solve the whole problem in a regional level. It's just going to increase the level of complexity to a level that is going to be impossible to resolve. So I think, honestly, my take is very pragmatic. It should be done in a local level, in a country level. And then if there are things that work, taken to a bigger scope, GCC, whatsoever. But right now, the challenge that we face in terms of access to technologies, access to payment providers, the trustworthiness, security, etc., is too big to let it to a too big consortium that will delay things on time.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, whether it's Uber, Smart Mall, smart coffee machines, Bitcoin, beacons, Amazon opening a physical shop to complement its online shopping, it's basically youth, mobility, and applications that are driving smart commerce going forward. Please join me in thanking our distinguished panelists today for their insights and sharing their information. And thank you all.